I woke at 3 a.m. to my husband whispering on the phone with his mother. She won't suspect a thing, Victor said. I lay still in the darkness, listening. Our 25th anniversary was in 3 weeks. What wouldn't I suspect? The next morning I checked his computer. His password had changed. He'd never changed it in 25 years. When I finally got in, I found his browser history. How to get divorced with joint property. Legal tricks for property divorce, our 25th wedding anniversary. My husband gave me divorce instead of a gift. 25 years is enough. I want someone young now, and tomorrow you're leaving the apartment, he announced in front of all the guests. He had forgotten that this apartment was a gift from my parents. His mother just smiled silently. I stood up, took the microphone, and said something that left him speechless. Before I continue with this story, however, I want to remind you, if this story touches your heart, don't forget to leave a like, subscribe to the channel, and let us know where you're listening from. Your support means so much to us. And now let's continue. That night, Elara woke when she heard whispering behind the bedroom door. Her husband Victor was talking on the phone with his mother again at 3 a.m. His voice sounded strangely excited. She lay still in the darkness, listening to fragments of conversation. We have to do this right, Victor's voice said. She won't suspect a thing. Of course not, my son, his mother's voice replied. Elara tensed. What were they secretly talking about? And why now, when there were only a few weeks left until their anniversary? The wooden floor creaked as Victor returned to the room. Elara quickly closed her eyes and pretended to be asleep. He carefully got into bed, but she felt his tense body, as if something was troubling him. The next morning, everything seemed strange. Victor was unusually affectionate. Elara, my love, he said, kissing her on the cheek. He smelled of expensive cologne. What do you think about choosing a restaurant for our anniversary today? I want everything to be perfect. Perfect. Elara raised an eyebrow. In 25 years of marriage, Victor had never been so enthusiastic about a family celebration. She had always organized everything, and he only found fault with it all. All right, she replied cautiously, watching him hurry off to work. His phone lay on the nightstand. The screen lit up with a notification. Elara couldn't help but look. It was a calendar reminder. Call Romanov at 2 p.m. Who was Romanov? Tell me, Victor, who is this Romanov you have in your contacts? She asked casually while watering the windowsill plants. Victor turned abruptly. For a second, Elara thought she saw panic in his eyes, but he immediately composed himself. Oh, Romanov, a colleague from Munich. I consult with him on work matters, a lie. Elara knew her husband like the back of her hand. When he lied, his left eye always twitched, just like now. I see, she replied with a smile, but inside something tightened in her chest. When he was gone, Elara stood by the window, gazing at the gray October sky. 25 years, a quarter of a century. They had met at university. She was a brilliant accounting student. He a young manager with a future. They married for love. They dreamed of children, of a large family, but the children never came. The doctors found nothing wrong, but the miracle never happened. Victor took it very badly, especially when his mother started with her comments about grandchildren. Over time, they accepted not having children and tried to see the positive. More time for themselves, for traveling, for advancing in their careers. But something had changed. Something important. The doorbell ringing pulled her from her thoughts. At the door stood Victor's mother, Tamara Ivanovna, with her typical cold smile. Elara, my dear, she said, entering the house without invitation. How are you? Are you already preparing everything for the party? Tamara Ivanovna had always treated me with exaggerated politeness but great distance. In 25 years of marriage, she had never called me daughter, even though Victor was her only son. The most she ever said was, Elarochka, as if that was the closest she could come to me. Yes, gradually, I replied, leading her into the living room. Victor wants to celebrate at a restaurant. Very good, she replied animatedly, at a decent place with people. Otherwise, they do everything at home in the family, and nobody finds out that it's such an important date. She began looking around the living room as if evaluating it. I already knew that look. It always made me feel, without saying it out loud, that her apartment was bigger and better furnished. By the way, Elarochka, she said, as she sat down in an armchair, I've been thinking about the future. Victor isn't so young anymore. He's already 53 and we have no grandchildren. Don't you think it would be a good idea to make a will? Just in case, I felt a chill. What will? Tamara Ivanovna, we don't have children. Well, for my nephews, she said casually, waving her hand. I have 2 nephews from my brother. Good boys. They're studying, working. Otherwise, the government gets everything. I slowly set my teacup on the table. And where do you keep the apartment documents? She suddenly asked, as if it were something casual. I'm just thinking about the boys' future. I mean the nephews. In short, about the young men. That's when I understood everything. I already knew where this was leading. They're in the safe, I replied dryly. But why do you need them? Nothing. Just in case. You never know what can happen. It's good to know where things are. When she finally left, I sat silently, thinking. The call in the middle of the night. Victor's strangely affectionate behavior. And now Tamara's visit with questions about the house papers. Everything was beginning to make sense. Piece by piece, the puzzle was coming together. And I didn't like what I was seeing at all. I went to check Victor's computer. He had never changed the password before. He always used a simple password, the date we met. But this time it didn't work. My heart raced. In 25 years, he had never had secrets from me. We shared everything. I tried his birthday. Nothing. I tried his mother's birthday too. Nothing. And then I had the idea to try our wedding date backwards. It worked. The browser history opened and what I saw made my stomach knot. How to get divorced when there's joint property. Rights of the spouse in property division. Legal advice for separation. He had searched for all of this in the last 2 weeks. With trembling fingers, I scrolled through page after page. How to keep the apartment in a divorce. Legal tricks for property division. And suddenly the phone rang. It was my friend Svetlana. Elara, you won't believe what I saw. You're Victor. I saw him in a jewelry store on Tesla Street with a young woman. They were looking at rings. She was clinging to him, hugging him, as if it were nothing. What did she look like? I interrupted quietly. Well, around 30. Blonde, very well groomed, in a very expensive coat. Pretty, but you could tell she was superficial, and they were treating each other so tenderly. Are you okay, Elara? Yes, I lied. Everything's fine, but it wasn't fine. Nothing was fine. That night, Victor returned with a bouquet of roses and a box of expensive chocolates. For my one and only, he said very confidently, kissing me on the lips. One and only. What irony. Elara looked him directly in the eyes. We need to talk seriously about our future. Victor tensed, very subtly, but she noticed. Talk about what? He said, turning on the TV and pretending to watch the program. Everything's fine, isn't it? Of course, he replied with a broad smile. In a week, it's our anniversary. All our friends will come. We shouldn't spoil the mood with serious topics. We'll talk after the party. Agreed, after the party. That meant something was going to happen exactly at the party. Elara nodded as if agreeing, but inside she felt an icy cold. After 25 years of marriage, she knew her husband well, and now she felt it. He was preparing something cold-bloodedly and calmly, involving his mother, and certainly a lawyer too. What Victor didn't know was that Elara had an ace up her sleeve, something that could bring all his plans to nothing. And for now, she had no intention of telling him about it. The next day, Elara woke with a lump in her throat, as if she had received terrible news the day before and was just learning to live with it. Victor left early without having breakfast. I have a meeting, he said. Meeting, Elara thought bitterly. Now she knew exactly who that meeting was with. At 11 a.m., the house phone rang. Victor had forgotten his cell phone. It was lying face down in the kitchen. Elara didn't answer, but the answering machine recorded the message. Victor, it's me. Mom, I spoke with Romanov. Everything can be arranged. The important thing is that she suspects nothing until the last moment. Call me when you're free. Romanov, the supposed colleague from Munich. Now everything made sense. Elara felt the ground being pulled out from under her feet. 25 years. A quarter of a century by the side of a man who was now planning her betrayal as if it were an office matter. She went to Victor's phone. It required a password. Previously, it had been simple. The date they met, September 1st, 1990. but now it required a 6-digit code. She tried Tamara Ivanovna's birthday. It didn't work, the date of their wedding either, and then she remembered the blonde from the jewelry store. Her intuition told her to try March 8th. It worked. March 8th, the mistress's birthday. The messages confirmed everything. Marina, my love, just a little more patience. After the anniversary, everything will be settled. The apartment will be ours. Victor, you said we'd be living together by New Year's. I'm tired of hiding. Darling, everything is going according to plan. Mom has already taken care of it. Elara suspects nothing. Romanov says if we do it right, she'll only get half. I'll keep the apartment. Elara sank into a chair. Her hands were trembling. They were planning her life as if she were a used item. Victor, his mother, the lawyer Romanov, the mistress Marina, all tangled in a trap where she was the prey, and the worst was yet to come. Tell me, Mom, are you sure the apartment documents are in both names? Maybe we got lucky and only my name is on it. Son, I saw the copies when they bought it. Both names are on it, but Romanov says there are ways. The important thing is that she signs the waiver. And if she doesn't sign, she will sign. After what we're going to do to her at the party, she'll have no choice. What were they planning to do to her? Elara felt fear rising in her throat. They were going to humiliate her in front of everyone, accuse her of something. Without wasting time, she copied all the important messages to her own phone and put Victor's phone back where she had found it. Her hands were still trembling. She needed a plan. She needed help. She would go to Irina Koltsova, her friend from university, now a family law attorney. They didn't talk as often, but their friendship was still solid. One of those friendships that endure through time. Elara, Irina said when she answered. It's been so long. How are you? Can we meet today? Elara asked, trying to sound calm. I need a consultation. Of course. I'm free at 6 p.m. Come to the office and we'll talk. Irina's office was downtown in a modern building. She greeted her with a hug but immediately noticed Elara's tension. Sit down. Tell me everything. What happened? Elara took a deep breath. Let's say a friend has problems with her husband. He wants a divorce, but he's hiding it. And it seems he's preparing a trap. Irina looked at her firmly. Elara, she said gently, are you sure what you're telling me is just a theoretical example? Elara was silent for a few seconds, then told her everything. The calls in the middle of the night, the messages on the phone, Marina, her mother-in-law's plans, everything. Irina listened attentively, occasionally asking questions for clarification. I understand, she finally said. It's a serious situation, yes, but you're not lost. The good thing is you've reacted in time. Tell me about the house. When was it bought? Whose name is it in? In 2005, we registered it in both names in equal parts. Do you work officially? Yes. I've been chief accountant at Alliance Construction for 15 years. And the vacation house is also in both names, but it's not worth as much. What really matters is the apartment. Irina made notes in her notebook. Elara, they can't do anything to you if you keep a cool head. In a divorce, everyone gets what is legally theirs. Nobody can force you to waive your share. But it's clear they're planning something dirty. They want to put you in an emotionally weak position. A scandal, an accusation, something that breaks you. You need to be ready. And how do I prepare? Gather evidence. Take photos of the messages. Record conversations if you can. Transfer part of the money to an account that's only in your name. And most importantly, don't let them know you already know what they're doing. Elara nodded. For the first time in days, she felt something like relief. She had a plan. She had support. Thank you, Irina. How much do I owe you? Irina smiled. Nothing, my dear. Between friends, there's no charge. Just keep me updated. And remember, whatever happens, you're neither alone nor helpless. Elara returned home determined to act. But what she saw upon arrival confirmed that the war had already begun. Victor was standing at the entrance, looking at himself in the mirror. You look a bit worn out today, don't you? He said without looking directly at her. I'm sorry. Well, Elarochka, lately you've let yourself go a bit. Look, being 50 isn't the end of the world, but you have to take care of yourself. Go to the gym, to the dermatologist, do something. Today I saw my partner's daughter. She's 30 but looks 25, well-dressed. And you? Well, you understand. He was comparing her to young women, preparing the ground to justify his betrayal. Tomorrow I have a meeting. he suddenly said. It's Saturday, but it will take all day. Another meeting with Marina. All right, Elara replied calmly. And on Sunday, I'm going to Mom's. I'll set up the TV for her, spending time with the family of traders. That night, when Victor went to shower, Elara checked his online bank account. In the last month, $350,000 had been withdrawn in several installments. Gifts for Marina, payments to the lawyer, and who knows what else. All with her money. Elara laughed nervously, almost on the verge of collapse. They were using her own money to plan her betrayal, but she had an ace up her sleeve, something they didn't know about. A week earlier, she had received a letter from the notary. Her Aunt Sina, her father's older sister, had died in Germany. She had no children or partner. She had left her entire inheritance to Elara, her only niece, an apartment in Munich, €500,000 in the account, and another luxury 2-bedroom apartment in Berlin that she had bought 5 years ago as an investment. Elara hadn't told anyone. She wanted to make it a surprise at their anniversary. But now, this money and these properties were her salvation. She opened her laptop and began researching how to register the inheritance, transfer the money to her personal account, and legally protect herself from those who thought she was stupid. Victor thought he had all the cards in his hand. But the game was just beginning. On Monday, Elara woke with a clear plan. First, she would go to the notary, but not the one handling her aunt's case. She would see an old acquaintance, Peter Semyonovich, the notary who had helped them buy the apartment years ago. Elara arrived at the notary's office, an older gentleman who greeted her with a smile. Elara Nikolaevna, how many years has it been? And how is Viktor Andreevich? Peter Semyonovich, I need your help, she said as she entered his office and looked around. But it must be confidential. The notary's face became serious. Sit down. I'm listening. Do you remember our apartment on Garden Street? You did the papers in 2005? Yes, of course. A very good apartment in a good building. Do you remember who bought it first? I mean, where did the money come from? Peter frowned, opened an old file, and searched for a moment. Here it is. It was an unusual case. The money came directly from your parents' account, and in the gift deed, you are the only beneficiary. Victor was added later, 2 months later, already as your husband. Elara felt warmth in her chest. So it would be pre-marital property? Formally, yes. Your parents gave it to you before Victor appeared in the documents. In case of divorce, that can make the difference. He could only claim something if he proved he invested in major renovations. Elara barely smiled. Victor had never put €1 into the apartment. She had done everything alone. Could you give me a document confirming this? Of course. Come back tomorrow afternoon. It will be ready. As she left the office, Elara felt different. After so many days, she finally felt strong, protected, but what awaited her at home shocked her. A courier handed her a thick envelope from Germany. The inheritance papers from Aunt Sina Elara read the German lines with the help of the Spanish summary. An apartment in Munich worth $800,000, a bank account with $570,000, and another luxury apartment in Berlin, bought as an investment. In total, over $1.5 million. She sat down in the living room. Now she was a rich, independent, free woman. But Victor couldn't know. Not yet, her phone rang. It was Victor with an overly cheerful voice. Elara, my love, I've been thinking, what if we celebrate our anniversary properly? With colleagues, friends, everyone? Why such a big deal, Victor? Why, it's 25 years. A silver anniversary. I want everyone to see what a perfect family we have. I've already reserved the hall at the Metropole restaurant for 100 people. 100 people for her public humiliation. Isn't that too expensive, Victor? We should be saving. Don't worry about that, he interrupted. The money is there. What matters is the impression. We'll invite my boss, yours. Everyone should see how happy we are. What cynical lies. All right, Elara said calmly. As you wish. Perfect. I have a meeting with some partners. We'll talk tonight. Partners. Elara already knew what that meant. In the afternoon, her mother-in-law Tamara Ivanovna came with a gift. Elarochka, my dear, she said with a sweet voice, handing her an envelope. This is from me for you. What is this? A consultation with an excellent family lawyer. Just in case, you never know. Elara opened the envelope. A business card, Romanov. attorney for divorces and real estate, with a note. Free consultation whenever you want. And what's this for, Tamara Ivanovna? Just in case you need it, she replied indifferently. It's always better to be prepared. What audacity. They were giving her the consultation with the lawyer who would betray her. Thank you, Elara said dryly. Very thoughtful. I worry about you, my daughter. Daughter. For the first time in 25 years, her mother-in-law called her that, right before stabbing her in the back. After Tamara left, Elara began tidying up. In one of Victor's jackets, she found a crumpled card. Igor Romanov, family attorney. Divorces, property division, alimony, the same one from the envelope, the same plan. Victor returned late that night, satisfied and smelling of expensive perfume. Everything's ready, he hugged her. Restaurant, menu, guests, it will be unforgettable. Elara looked at him coldly. He was right. It would be unforgettable, just not the way he imagined. Victor, what cologne are you wearing? That's not yours. Oh, he hesitated. I rode the elevator with the neighbor. She uses very strong perfume and it stuck to my clothes. One lie after another. By the way, he said as he approached the window, at the anniversary I'm going to give a special speech about our life and our future plans. What plans? You'll see. It's a surprise. Surprise. Elara felt a shiver. That night she couldn't sleep. She had too many things on her mind. Around 2 a.m. she heard murmuring. Victor was talking on the phone in the hallway. She got up silently, went to the bedroom door, and listened. Mom, everything's going perfectly. The restaurant is already reserved. The guests are confirmed. After the toast, everything will unfold on its own. And are you sure she suspects nothing? How could she suspect anything? She's naive as a child. She's always trusted me and still does. And if she won't sign the papers, she will sign. After what I'm going to say to her in front of everyone, she'll have no choice. Everyone will see what she's like. You know, and Victor, don't you think it would be better to do it privately, at home, without so much fuss? No, Mom, it has to be in front of everyone. That way she can't make a scene or demand explanations. She'll go straight home, and there Romanov will already be waiting for her with the papers. Everything quick, clean, and without drama. And does Marina know already? Of course. She's even coming to the anniversary. I want her to meet my colleagues. I'll introduce her as my new assistant. You're cruel, she said. That's not cruelty, Mom. That's pragmatism. 25 years were enough. I deserve to be happy too. Even at her expense. Elara returned to bed but couldn't sleep anymore. So Marina would also be at the party. She would witness her rival's humiliation and then take her place in the house. That's what they thought. But Elara already had other plans. In the morning, she went to the bank, opened a personal account in her name, and transferred half the money from the joint account. If Victor wanted to keep spending on his mistress, he should do it with his share. Then she went to the notary to get the document confirming that the apartment had been hers before the marriage. After that, she went to work. Boris Mikhailovich, she said to her boss as she entered his office. Can I talk to you? Of course, Elara Nikolaevna. Is everything all right? Everything's fine, for now. I just wanted to inform you that I'll soon be going through a difficult time personally. Divorce? He asked, frowning. Seriously? I thought you were doing well. You even invited me to your anniversary. That's exactly why I want to inform you. If something goes wrong, I hope for your support. My work won't be affected. You're the best accountant we've had in years. Whatever happens, your job is secure. That night, when Victor went to one of his other meetings, Elara took out the inheritance documents. She needed a clear and well-thought-out plan. The apartment in Berlin was empty. Aunt Sina had rented it, but the contract had expired a month ago. She could move there after the divorce. With the money in the German bank account, she had financial independence for years. And most importantly, the document proving that the current apartment had been hers before the marriage. Victor hadn't seen that coming. Tomorrow was the anniversary. He thought he would land the final blow, but he would receive it. Elara put all the papers in the safe and smiled. On Thursday morning, she went to the German consulate. The inheritance had to be formalized to access Aunt Sina's accounts. The consul, an older gentleman with a well-groomed beard, reviewed the documents attentively. Everything is in order, Mrs. Sokolova. Your aunt was a very forward-thinking woman. The bank accounts will be unlocked in a week. And as for the apartment in Berlin, ownership transfers to your name immediately. Here are the papers. You can do with it as you wish." Elara carefully placed the documents in her bag. Now she had 3 apartments, $1.5 million, and most valuable of all, complete freedom. That same day, she opened another Euro account. That's where she would transfer the money from Germany. The bank advisor, a young woman, looked at the numbers in the papers with wide eyes. "Wow, you really got lucky with the inheritance, didn't you?" "Yes," Elara smiled. "My aunt was an incredible woman." As she left the bank, she felt as if a weight had been lifted from her shoulders. For the first time in many years, she felt truly free and independent. She didn't care what Victor was planning. That was no longer her problem. But the surprise waiting for her in front of the Metropole restaurant was a hard blow. She had come to check how everything was going for the anniversary celebration. And right at the entrance, a young blonde in a very expensive coat was talking on the phone. "Victor, my love, everything is incredible," she said in a sweet voice. "The hall is huge, the decoration is beautiful. You promised me we'd soon be living in a very large apartment, and I'm already imagining hosting guests there." It was Marina, her husband's mistress. She was standing just a few steps away, talking excitedly about the life she would have with him. Elara stopped and looked at her. There was no doubt she was pretty. She was about 30 years old, had a good figure, well-groomed hair, perfect nails, but her eyes were empty, cold, calculating. "Of course I understand tomorrow will be difficult," Marina continued, "but you said after your speech she'll understand everything. And I'll be there as your new assistant." "Romantic?" "Not romantic. Publicly humiliating his wife is romantic," Elara approached. "Excuse me, do you know where the manager is?" Marina turned, looked her up and down contemptuously. "No idea," she replied coldly. "I don't work here," and she returned to her phone. "Victor, there's a woman here asking me questions." "Well, see you tonight. I love you, a woman." Elara smiled to herself. Tomorrow this woman would have a big surprise. The restaurant manager, a friendly, plump lady, greeted Elara with a smile. "Are you here about tomorrow's anniversary? Mr. Sokolov has already paid for everything. Hall for 100 people, banquet, live music. And how much did all this cost?" $54,000. Your husband ordered the best of the best. $54,000 to publicly humiliate her. Elara nodded. "I see. Can I see the hall?" Yes, the hall was luxurious. High ceilings, crystal chandeliers, impeccable white tablecloths, huge mirrors on the walls. All the guests would have a perfect view of the spectacle. "Where will the microphone be for the toasts?" Elara asked. "Right here in the center," said the manager. Mr. Sokolov insisted that everyone hear him, of course, so no one would miss the humiliation. At home, Victor was waiting for her, nervous with a sheet of paper in his hand, pacing back and forth. "Oh, Elara," he said, quickly putting the paper away. "How was the restaurant? Everything okay? And what did you think?" "Impressive. $54,000 for one night. Are you serious?" Victor flinched. "How do you know the amount?" "The manager told me." "Victor, don't you think that's too much? We have other plans, don't we?" "Don't worry," he said dismissively. "The money is there. What matters is making a good impression. On the guests or on the mistress." That evening, Tamara Ivanovna came over, the mother-in-law all excited. "Well, Victor, my son, are you ready? Have you practiced your speech?" "Of course, Mom. Everything will go perfectly. Don't worry." She patted him on the shoulder. "Your speech will be a success. Everyone will see you made the right decision." The right decision. Elara watched them from the kitchen, feeling anger growing inside her. "Mom, what if she makes a scene?" "She won't," she replied confidently. "With so many people, she'll endure it. She's an educated woman. At home, they'll work it out then. And Romanov is already ready." "Yes, the papers are already done. All that's missing is her signature. After your speech, she'll have no choice." Elara silently went into the bedroom and took her own papers from the drawer. She had already prepared everything. Elara put all the papers in a folder. The document stating the apartment had been hers before the marriage, the inheritance papers, and the new bank account statement. Tomorrow, these documents would change everything. That night, when Tamara Ivanovna had left, Victor locked himself in his study. Elara heard him practicing his speech, muttering words just for himself. She went to the door and listened. Dear friends, today is a special day. 25 years ago, I made a decision that seemed right, but life goes on. People change, and sometimes you have to have the courage to admit mistakes. 25 years of marriage were his mistake. I thank Elara for these years, but honesty demands telling the truth. We are different people with different values, with different plans for the future, and I've made a decision. After that, it wasn't easy to hear well, but the meaning was clear. Elara went back to the bedroom and lay down without changing. She had no desire to sleep. In the morning, Victor woke in a good mood. Elara, he said as he adjusted his tie knot in front of the mirror. Today is a big day. Yes, our anniversary. Not just that, he said with a strange smile. Tomorrow your life will change. And mine too, completely. How completely? You'll see. It will surprise you. Surprise? Victor, can I ask you a question? Sure, go ahead. Did you ever love me? Really? He stopped with the tie in his hand. What a strange question. Why are you asking that? I'm just curious on such an important day. Of course I loved you, he said without looking at her. And I still love you. In my own way. In his own way. Like someone loves an old piece of furniture that has served its purpose. I understand, Elara said quietly. During the day, Victor was frantic, calling the restaurant, checking the guest list, giving instructions. In the afternoon, he was very nervous. Are you ready, Elara? She stood in front of the mirror in a new, elegant dark blue dress. She had bought it especially for this day. Ready? Then let's go. It's time for the truth to come out. The truth. Elara took her purse where she kept the documents. Yes, it was time for everyone to learn the truth. On the way, they didn't speak. Victor was nervous, drumming his fingers on the steering wheel. Elara looked out the window at the city lights. 5 years ago, they had also driven to the registry office in silence. But that silence had been full of excitement and love. Today, it was the silence before a battle. Elara, Victor said as they arrived at the restaurant, whatever happens today, I want you to know I wish you the best. The best. What cruel mockery. Thank you, Victor, she replied with a calm smile, and I hope you get exactly what you deserve. The hall of the Metropole restaurant gleamed like a palace. 100 guests sat at round tables with white roses and golden candles. At the main table sat the hosts of the event. Elara smiled and thanked people for their congratulations, but inside she was tense. Any moment the blow would come. Elara, how beautiful you look today, said a work colleague, Marina Petrovna, 25 years together. How romantic. Yes, said Elara, looking around. All very unexpected. In a corner of the hall stood Marina, Victor's mistress. Today she had been introduced as his new advertising assistant. Young, pretty, in a very expensive dress, chatting quite calmly with some colleagues as if nothing were wrong. Victor Andreevich, congratulations on the anniversary, said the director of the company where Victor worked. You rarely see such stable couples. Thank you, Igor Vladimirovich, Victor replied, shaking his hand. Today is a special day. I've even prepared a very special speech. A speech. Elara's throat went dry. Tamara walked from table to table, accepting compliments for her good son and the ideal wife he had. Her eyes shone with excitement. She knew what was going to happen. At a small table in the back sat a man about 50 years old in a dark suit, very serious. Elara didn't know him, but she recognized him. It was Romanov, the lawyer. He was there in case something needed to be signed. Dear guests, the master of ceremonies' voice rang through the microphone. I ask for your attention. Victor would like to say a few words in honor of his wife. It became quiet. Everyone turned to the main table. Victor stood up, took the microphone, and smiled broadly. Friends, thank you for being here today on this important day. 25 years is no small thing. It's a quarter of a century by the side of a single person. The guests nodded, raising their glasses. I've thought a lot about our life together, Victor continued, about what united us, what made us happy, and what didn't so much. Elara tensed. It's already started, she thought. And I've realized something very important. People change. What seems right as a young person can turn out to be a mistake over time. The hall became even quieter. People began looking at each other, confused. 5 years ago, I chose the woman who would be my life companion, guided by youthful emotions. But life taught me to see things more clearly. Victor, Elara murmured. What are you talking about? About the truth, my love. About the fact that we no longer have to lie to ourselves. He turned to the guests. His voice already sounded harder, firmer. Dear friends, I want to be honest with you and with myself. For 25 years, I've endured a life with a woman who isn't for me. A gray, boring woman who doesn't know how to be the partner of a successful man. The hall broke into surprised murmurs. Victor, are you crazy? Someone shouted. On the contrary, he said calmly. I'm finally thinking clearly. Elara needs to understand. Our marriage is over. I'm going to file for divorce. The hall froze. Some opened their mouths. Others put their hands on their chests. His mother, Tamara Ivanovna, smiled contentedly. And furthermore, Victor continued, already feeling secure, I want a fair property division. Elara must leave the apartment. It's time for a new life, new relationships. He looked meaningfully at Marina, the blonde standing in the background, hiding a triumphant smile. Is this a joke? A lady asked, confused. Are you in your right mind, Victor? His boss shouted. More than ever, he replied coldly. I have the right to be happy, and I'm going to exercise it. Elara still sat motionless, as if she had turned to stone. 100 pairs of eyes looked at her with pity, surprise, discomfort. That was exactly what he wanted. To humiliate her. Elara, this is madness. Her boss came up to her, concerned. Shh, she said quietly. Let him finish. Victor kept talking. I know it sounds harsh, but life isn't a fairy tale. Sometimes you have to make difficult decisions. Elara will get what is legally hers, and will separate on good terms. And that girl is a new conquest? One of Elara's friends shouted, pointing at Marina. Marina is a wonderful woman. She understands what I need, Victor said openly. Unlike other people, that was enough. Elara slowly stood up, took the microphone from her husband, who stood there stunned. Thank you, Victor, she said in a calm, almost sweet voice. All very honest. The hall fell silent. Everyone expected tears, drama, for her to run away. You know what, dear friends? Elara continued. Victor is right about something. Enough lies. And I also want to tell the truth. Victor frowned. That wasn't in his plans. The truth is, I've known about this whole theater for 3 weeks. I knew about Marina, about the lawyer Romanov standing in the corner there, and about your plans to make me give up the apartment. Romanov turned pale and tried to disappear unnoticed, but some angry guests were already blocking his way. Elara, what are you talking about? Victor tried to interrupt. About the fact that your plan failed, my dear. You see, you made a small mistake. She took a folder from her purse. Our apartment isn't joint property. It's a gift from my parents in my name, before the marriage. I have the document from the notary. Victor took a step back. That can't be. And furthermore, Elara continued, 3 weeks ago I received an inheritance from my Aunt Sina from Germany. An apartment in Munich, another in Berlin, and $500,000. The silence in the hall was total. So Victor, what property division are you talking about? You own half of the vacation house and half of your car. Everything else is mine. Marina against the wall turned chalk white. And now the funniest part, Elara said with a smile. Do you know how much your successful husband spent on this little theater to publicly humiliate his wife? $54,000 of our joint savings. The guests began murmuring indignantly. But I'm not resentful, Elara continued. Victor, you're free now. Take your wonderful woman, as you called her, and live wherever you want. Just not in my apartment. Wait, Victor whispered. We can talk about this. There's nothing to talk about. Tomorrow I'm filing for divorce. Romanov can leave. I don't need him anymore. Then she turned to the guests. Dear friends, forgive me for ruining the evening. But sometimes the truth is more important than appearances. Thank you for coming. Now you know who's who. Elara set the microphone on the table and walked to the exit. Behind her, a scandal broke out. Victor, you're scum, a woman shouted. How could you do that to your wife? 25 years together and then this? Marina tried to leave discreetly, but a group of angry guests blocked her way. So, the homewrecker, you thought it would be easy to take another woman's husband? Have you no shame? At all. Tamara Ivanovna went from table to table trying to explain something, but no one listened to her. Meanwhile, Elara left the restaurant and breathed in the fresh night air. Freedom. Finally. She stopped at the door and looked at the chaos inside. Through the large windows, she could see how Victor's house of cards, which he had been building for months, was collapsing. He stood in the middle of the hall, pale, confused, like an actor who had forgotten his lines. The microphone lay on the floor. Guests were screaming around him. The company director, Igor Vladimirovich, came up to him. Viktor Andreevich, I am deeply disappointed in you. After this show, I think we need to review your position in the company. But Igor, you don't understand, Viktor stammered. It's not what it seems. Elara twisted everything. Twisted? Svetlana Petrovna, Elara's colleague, intervened. We all heard what you said. Endured 25 years with a colorless woman. Aren't you ashamed? In another corner, another scene was playing out. Marina, who by now understood that her dream of living in a luxury apartment was over, was making her way through the angry guests. Victor, she shouted, grabbing him by the sleeve. What's going on? You promised me an apartment. Where's the money you gave me for our new life? Shh, Victor whispered, looking around nervously. Not here. Why not here? Marina shouted, getting angrier. I've been waiting for 3 months. You said after the divorce we'd live like royalty. And now? Guests turned curiously, and some were already recording everything with their phones. Enough, Victor begged. We'll talk later. But Marina laughed nervously, almost hysterically. Talk about what? You have neither an apartment nor money. You deceived me. She turned to the guests. Want to know the truth? This successful man promised me riches for 3 months. He bought me jewelry with his wife's money. He promised me a huge apartment downtown. Marina, be quiet, Victor shouted desperately. But it was too late. And furthermore, he took out loans using the joint assets as collateral, she said, now on a roll. He thought his wife would never find out. He withdrew $200,000 from Alpa Bank and another $150,000 from S Bank. He spent it all on me. The hall fell silent. Not even Elara knew that. Tamara Ivanovna, Victor's mother, who had been trying to remain unnoticed, ran up to him. Victor, my son, what is this woman saying? What loans? What inheritance from Elara? Mom, now's not the time, Victor muttered. How not the time? Tamara grabbed him by the arm. I mortgaged my apartment to give you money for the lawyer. And now how am I supposed to pay it back? Even his mother had gone into debt because of this fraud. Wait a minute. One of the guests intervened. Did I understand correctly? The 3 of you plan to defraud Elara? Not 3. 4, Marina said venomously. The lawyer Romanov, too. He was supposed to make her sign the waiver for the apartment. Everyone turned to the corner where Romanov had been sitting, but his chair was empty. The lawyer had already disappeared. You're a beast, Tamara Ivanovna shouted, lunging at Marina. This is all your fault. You drove my son crazy. My fault? Marina replied indignantly. Your little son manipulated me. He said his wife was stupid, that he could easily manipulate her. They almost came to blows, but men separated them. What a disgrace, a lady said loudly. Boris Mikhailovich, doesn't Elara work for you? Yes, and she's the best accountant I've had in 15 years, the director said firmly. After this circus, I'm only going to raise her salary. And this guy, he looked at Victor, should look for another job. With this reputation, he won't get far. Victor was going back and forth between his mother, his mistress, and the indignant guests, trying to fix something. People, you don't understand, he shouted. I have the right to be happy. 25 years is enough. Enough. An older lady, Elara's aunt, came up to him. And did you think about how it was for her, living 25 years with an egoist like you? Aunt Clara is right, other relatives of Elara's supported. What a disgrace. There have never been such despicable people in our family. Good thing Elara realized it in time, her cousin added. Otherwise, you would have deceived her whole life. Hey, what if we post this on social media? Said one of the young guests. Let everyone know who this Sokolov is. Yes, they supported him. We need to make the hashtag Silver Anniversary Betrayer trend. No, wait, Victor begged. Don't do that. This is my private life. Private? Marina laughed bitterly. You humiliated your wife in front of 100 people and now you care about privacy? Gradually, the guests began to leave. First, Elara's relatives left, then her work colleagues, then her acquaintances. As they left, each one expressed their opinion. Viktor Andreevich, said a colleague as he left. After today, you'd better not say you know me. What a disgrace for the family, a neighbor muttered. And now, with what face will he look at people? You're scum, one of the men said bluntly as he passed. You exhibited your wife in front of everyone like a joke. Half an hour later, only the protagonists of the drama remained in the hall. Victor, Mrs. Tamara, his mother, Marina, and some waiters who watched everything curiously. And now what? Marina asked, trying to fix her disheveled hair. Do you at least have some money, Victor? From where? He wailed. I spent everything on the celebration and your gifts. And the loans? Who's going to pay them? I don't know. Maybe I'll sell the car. The car? Marina laughed bitterly. Are you crazy? With that, you won't even cover the debts. And me, she said. I left my ex for you. I don't know what I'm going to do. I don't know, Victor repeated. I don't know what to do. Tamara Ivanovna sat with her face in her hands. And what am I supposed to tell Romanov? He charges for every consultation, and I even put my apartment up as collateral. Mom, Victor said, approaching her. We'll find a solution. A solution? She lifted her face, her eyes red. In my 70 years, I've become homeless because of your nonsense. Then Marina stood up, straightened her purse, and said, You know what? I'm leaving now. You can't be relied on at all. Victor, don't ever call me again. And the money you owe me from the last 3 months, forget it. Consider it payment for this life lesson. She walked straight out, but stopped at the door and turned around. Your wife is a firecracker. Too bad I only really met her today. Women like that deserve respect. And she left. Her heels clattered loudly. Victor and his mother remained alone in the hall, among half-eaten plates and overturned glasses. Tell me, Tamara said quietly. What if it's not too late? What if we go to Elara and ask for forgiveness? Victor shook his head. It's too late, Mom. You saw her face. She'll never forgive us. Then what are we going to do? I don't know, he repeated for the 3rd time. I swear I don't know. Meanwhile, Elara was riding in a taxi home, looking out the window at the city lights. In her purse, she had the papers for 3 apartments and proof of $1.5 million. The driver, an older gentleman, looked at her in the rearview mirror. Nice evening, isn't it? Yes, Elara said, smiling. Very nice. You could say it changed my life. That's good. There are days like that change everything. Exactly, she replied. Everything changed, and her life really did change forever. 3 months after the divorce, Elara was in court, watching the life of the man she had been married to for 25 years crumble. Victor looked 10 years older. Gray hair, a worn face, a cheap suit instead of the expensive ones he used to wear. The judge, an older lady with glasses, carefully reviewed the documents. Very well, she finally said. The court decides the following. The apartment at 12 Garden Street is pre-marital property of Mrs. Elara and will not be divided. Victor tensed in panic. His lawyer, no longer Romanov, but a young man from public defense, just raised his hands, not knowing what to do. The property with the house is considered marital property and will be divided in half. The same goes for the car, a Toyota Camry, Your Honor. Victor's lawyer stood up. My client uses this car for work. Overruled. The judge replied dryly. The car was bought with joint marital funds. Elara said nothing. Her friend and attorney Irina smiled discreetly. Everything was going according to plan. Furthermore, the judge continued, it has been proven that Mr. Victor concealed significant debts from his wife. Victor sank in his chair. A loan from Alpa Bank for $200,000, and another from S Bank for $150,000. Quick loan for $80,000. The total debt amounts to $430,000. But those are his personal dets, the young lawyer protested. According To Article 39 of the Family Code, the judge replied calmly. Debts taken on during the marriage are the responsibility of both spouses. However, since the money was not used for family welfare, but for the defendant's personal matters, he alone is responsible for repayment. Victor turned even paler. $430,000 in debt, and it all belonged only to him. This court decides, the judge said solemnly, to dissolve the marriage between Viktor Andreevich Sokolov and Elara Nikolaevna Sokolova. The defendant retains half of the land property and half of the car's value. The plaintiff retains the apartment and all bank accounts. No alimony will be awarded as there are no minor children. The gavel strike marked the end of a 25-year marriage. As she left the courthouse, Elara felt a strange calm, as if a great weight had finally been lifted from her shoulders. Elara, Victor called. Wait! She turned. Her ex-husband stood on the steps, clutching a folder of documents. What do you want to tell me? Forgive me, he said quietly. I was a selfish fool. You didn't deserve what I did to you. Elara looked at him carefully. Was it sincere remorse, or did he just want to make her feel bad? Victor, she said calmly, I bear no grudge against you. We're just very different people. You wanted an easy life at the expense of others. I'm used to fighting for what's mine. And could we meet sometimes as friends? Oh no, Elara replied gently but firmly. I'm sorry, but no. It's better if each of us goes our own way. She turned and walked to her car, a new, elegant Audi she had bought with part of the German inheritance. Life went on, and everyone got what they deserved. A month after the divorce, Victor lost his job. The video from the anniversary party had gone viral on social media, and the director of his company didn't want to carry this scandal any longer. Viktor Andreevich, his boss said on that last day, I can't have someone on my team who publicly embarrassed himself like that. But I'm a good professional. That may be, but your reputation is ruined. I'm sorry. Finding a job wasn't easy at all. Everywhere he was recognized. The video even had the hashtag Arger's Silver Anniversary Betrayer. Nobody wanted to hire someone like that. In the end, he worked as a taxi driver with his old Toyota, which he had to buy from Elara for half its value. $15,000. Now he lived with his mother in her small one-bedroom apartment on the outskirts of town. Tamara Ivanovna, his mother, had to sell her apartment downtown to pay off debts and buy something smaller and cheaper. Tell me, she said to him at night, looking at the cracked walls. Don't you think you should have listened to me? Not gotten involved with that, Marina? It's too late, Mom, Victor replied, counting what he had earned that day. Too late to regret. And Marina, by the way, was doing more than fine. 2 months after the scandal, she married a 60-year-old businessman, owner of a restaurant chain. He was rich, though not very smart. He believed her whole story about a toxic relationship with a married man. The wedding photos Marina uploaded to social media showed luxurious bouquets and gold jewelry. The caption read, "Finally found true love. Happy with my new life." Victor saw those photos and smiled bitterly. Marina got what she wanted, a rich man. But it wasn't him. And Elara was living a completely different life. She moved into her Aunt Sina's apartment in Berlin, near the famous Tiergarten. It was a spacious, bright apartment with a view of old trees, a true oasis amid the city's chaos. She no longer wanted to be an accountant. With the money she had inherited from Germany, she opened a small publishing house specializing in translations of European books. It was the dream of her life, Elara Nikolaevna, Boris said when she went to resign. We don't want you to leave. Are you sure you won't reconsider? Thank you, she replied with a smile. But I've found what really excites me. I'm going to dedicate myself to books. Well, I wish you much luck. And you know what? After everything that happened with your ex-husband, many of our female employees see you as a role model. A woman must be able to defend herself. One evening, she visited her friend Irina. Are you satisfied? Irina asked, looking at the cozy living room. You know, Elara replied thoughtfully. I don't feel revenge. More like relief. And was that revenge? No, I just defended my rights. The truth always wins, even if it sometimes takes time. She drank tea on the terrace, looking at the lights of Berlin. Do you regret those years? No, Elara said, shaking her head. Those 25 years taught me something very valuable, to trust only myself and to place honesty above all else. At her publishing house, 5 young, talented translators worked. They published beautiful books in small print runs for those who appreciated good literature. Elara Nikolaevna, her editor, said to her one day, "Your story is very special. My mother told me about it. She was at that anniversary. She works with your former boss. She says there are few women like you." "I don't consider myself a strong woman," Elara replied. "I just decided not to be a victim." A year later, she received a letter from Victor. "Elara, I don't know if you'll read this. I just want to say I understand. You were the best thing that ever happened to me. I lost you because I was stupid and ambitious. I'm not asking for forgiveness. I know I don't deserve it. I just want you to know that you deserve the best in the world. Be happy. Victor." Elara read the letter and put it in a drawer, without anger, without sadness, just as a reminder of a past life. That night she went out on the terrace with a cup of coffee. Berlin glittered with lights. Music could be heard in the distance. And the air smelled of summer flowers. She was free, financially independent, doing what she loved, and for the first time in many years, she felt truly happy. And in another part of the city, Victor was driving his old Toyota, transporting passengers, thinking about how you can lose everything in one night. Yes, truth always defeats lies, even if it sometimes takes time. Thank you for listening to the end. If you like the story, please give us a like. For you, it's just a small thing, but for us, it means a lot. We read your comments.